Hello everyone, and thanks for watching another episode of Booster Seat. Today we're doing a Powertrax Lock Right or a lunchbox locker install on an early 80s Toyota 8-inch differential. I think it's pretty self-explanatory why. You think you're going wheeling in the last episode in Penrose, and next thing you know, you're on your way there, and your ringing pinion says, you know what, I've had enough of you after 16 years, let's not and say we did.
Woo! Get it on, baby! Yahoo!
I'll tell you what, looking at the manual again, this might also be a good guide for Nissan and Isuzu third-member style differentials installing the same Powertrax Lock Right locker. And if you're unable to find a good tutorial for your application on installing this same locker, this would be a good guide for almost all removable third-member style differentials similar to this. I'm going to be using a couple different voices in this episode, so hope y'all enjoy. I picked up another third member housing off another early 80s Toyota that we're going to be putting this locker in. So, you know, you got, once again, your little RC crawlers sitting on all your stuff. You got carrier side bearings, just, you know, come right off. Usually those got to be pressed on with like a 12-ton press or something, you know, but it's all good. So let's go ahead and get started here.
Chalk your front wheels.
Jack your axle. Drain your Earl.
Now get them wheels off.
Take off your e-brake cables. Remove your axle bolts. Remove your brake lines. Take out the axes. Take a BB gun, BB, or a bolt. Stick it in some small vacuum hose and cap your lines. Take off your shaft. If he's all linky-dinked up like the pumpkin Yodi is, bungee your shaft to your length. Remove your diff bolts. Take out your diff. Now stick your diff upright in a motorcycle stand or a small bucket. Alright, we're going to get serious here for a minute. What we're going to do is feel our pinion to ring gear lash. And it feels really good. First thing you're going to do is these carrier side bearing adjusters. You're going to mark them to the locks. And then we're going to remove the locks. So now with the locks off, what I've done is I've carefully taken a punch like so and a hammer. And I have marked exactly where these side adjusters go before I turn them out, and put 2 dimples on this cap to mark it to that side. Here we are again with the adjuster. And then I've gone and put 4 dimples on this cap. Before we go ahead and loosen up the bearing cap bolts here, what I like to do is take a flat punch like so, and what I'll do is I'll use the ring gear to rotate the ring around and undo these locking tangs. Keep your diff lined up with a piece of cardboard like so, and put all your parts on either side. I'm going to take a piece of pipe that fits into the bearing where the axle would slide into to loosen the bearing cap bolts. Now that all the bearing cap bolts are loosened up, I like to go through and take a socket and just snug them down by hand. Make sure there's a little tension on them. That way we don't skip any teeth when we go to back out these adjusters. So now we're going to take a grinder tool like this. We're going to count our dimple marks as we loosen this, how many times it goes around. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it popped out right there. That's where we're going to make our mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. We'll mark it there. I like to write down the number of counts it took to get the carrier bearing adjusters out. Now loosen the bearing cap bolts all the way. Take them out with the race and set them on the side they belong. And then now your differential ring and carrier assembly comes right out like so. Just look at that. Mark the ring gear to the carrier. That way, if I have any problems with the ring gear going back on after I do the locker, then I know which way it was on and will go on. All right, Dan. Now it's time to get these dang ring gear bolts out. Now we can take a brass punch and a hammer or a soft mallet or a dead blow and tap the ring gear off of the carrier. There she goes. I'm going to take your tapered punch and in this hole right here, some of us say hog this out to make it round again, and your pin will come out a lot easier. Take a round punch and we're going to tap out the pin. And now that that pin's out of the way enough, we can take the spider gear shaft and go ahead and push that baby out. Now we can turn our spider gear assembly and it all falls right out of there. Then you're going to want to keep these thrust washers here for the locker. They're right on the back side of these. Some needle nose on these works pretty good to get these off.
Just like that.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Alright, let's get this locker in now. So, I've greased my thrust washers either side. That helps keep them on. And then I also greased my spline collars so they'll move nice and good inside the carrier housing. So let's go ahead and put these in. Flat spots, obviously, to get them in there. There's 4 little pins, and they're going to go in the oblong holes for now. They're called the window holes. Put those in. And on the opposite side, there's another one. Now let's do the other side. Now that we have those in there, definitely do not put them in there. Take some grease, and on these spacer sleeves, whip side against your pin. So stick those in there like that. Put a little grease on these teeth.
Oh my, oh.
And be sure you don't dump your pins on the ground. So our pins are still in there. Teeth are greased. Stick this in there. And you're going to use that sleeve that you greased up, and that's going to hold the two together in the meantime. 2 pins are in. Sleeve is in. Stick her down in there. And slide that sleeve in to where it'll hold the two together, the inners and outers. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Before we put our spider gear pin back in, we're going to rotate these. And we're going to take a pocket screwdriver and work these pins over into the opposing side, like so. Then we can put our springs in. Now let's try and rotate it to the opposing side. Once you get it one in, they like to cooperate and all stay together like it should. Make sure you have both of your springs in every time you install these, because there's an inner and outer. Okay, now we'll do the other 2. Slide the pin across. We have both our springs. And then our last pin. Then once you got all your springs in and seated in there like they should be, they all look just like so. You're going to grab your spider gear pin. We're going to install that back in there. So rotate your locker to where the holes line up. Make sure that you put the side with the hole in the end for your pin here. Line it up as best as you can so there's no binding when you try and tap your pin back in. Oh my. Yeah, about 1/4 inch below the top. Then you're going to take your hammer and mar this back down. Now's a good time to go around and make sure your locker has plenty of free play in it, like it's going to ratchet like it's supposed to. Everything's moving nice. And then we also have back and forth movement on the pin. I've applied some fastener lubricant to my ring gear bolts. You can do that, or engine or gear oil, whatever. And then I've set my ring back down on my carrier. You can see I've lined it back up with the mark I made. So what I'll do now is I'll go around to the low side and I'll get 2 of my bolts started. You only want to go in like 2 or 3 threads, not too far. Then you're going to rotate it to the other opposite side. And then you're going to tap your ring gear down and then get the other side started before you fully seat the ring down onto the carrier. That way, all of our bolts will go in. You want to put your carrier in your vise with the flat ends to clamp it down so you can torque your ring gear bolts. I've already gone and done a few sequences on these. I think I started out 20 foot-pounds in a cross pattern, and then I went 40, then I think 55, and then 65, and then we'll go ahead and do the final sequence on this now. All right then, here we go. Final torque, 71 foot-pounds. Let's do it. Then I'll go around and do just a final round on them all. Tap all your locking tangs back onto your bolts now. Don't want to forget that. I've verified that the preload on my pinion bearings is still good and I have no in and out movement on it, so that's all good to go. Lubed up my carrier bearings with a little bit of grease. I've verified that my carrier bearing races are in good shape, not all scored up. I still have all my parts in order. So it's time to drop this back in the housing. I got my bearing races back under the carrier adjusters. I've gone and snugged my bearing cap bolts down by hand. That way I can still turn my adjusters. All right. So let's see, I had about 3 3/4 turn on the right, 4 1/2 on the left. So let's see here, I got my starter mark here. So that's about where it wants to come out. These can be a pain to get them started sometimes. You don't want to cross thread them. There's 3/4, 1, 2. I got a wrench here, angle grinder wrench. There we go, right on my dimpies. Now 4 1/2. All right, so there's my starter mark at the bottom. About wants to fall out. That's where it starts threading. There's my dimple up top there. So there's a 1/2. 1, 2, 3. Now it's getting pretty snug right there. Take the wrench again. Let's see what we got. So the way we set up our carrier bearing adjusters, you can either go by feel or it's a good idea to get a magnetic base dial indicator. So what you want to do is just verify that you don't have any back and forth play side to side on your carrier bearings. If that all seems good, then what you want to do is verify your backlash before torquing down your bearing cap bolts. And let's see what we got here. Spec on these is 6 to 10 thousandths, so looks like we're just under 8 thousandths. So we're in spec. I think I'm going to run it. If it turns out that you have too much backlash, say you're in the 15 thousandths area, what you want to do is first turn this side out 1 notch at a time. Then you're going to turn this side in 1 notch at a time. until you get your desired backlash. And, you know, you can be anywhere from 6 to 10 thousandths is acceptable. Say that you don't have enough backlash. Well, you're going to do the exact opposite. And you're first going to turn this side out 1 notch at a time and turn this side in 1 notch at a time until you get your desired backlash. Then what we're going to do is torque down these bearing cap bolts in a cross pattern. I like to do these bearing caps in sequence as well. Stick the pipe back in. I'm going to start at 40 foot-pounds. Then the final 70 or 71. These are torqued to 70. These are torqued to 15 now. Let's check our backlash again. Looks like 6. Oh my gosh.
And if you really want to get carried away, they got this gear marking paste, and what you do here, boys and girls, you get all B-Ross on it. Paint it up real nice like.
Just rotate it down into the pinion, right in the middle. And then we're going to take a strap like so, put it around the pinion, and you're going to just get after it.
Well, run it!
So if for any reason you've gone and blown up your gear set or burned up your bearings, and your entire axle housing is all full of metal shavings like mine was all the way to the outsides, what you want to do is you want to pull these axle guides out, and they're spring loaded. They're set in there behind these 2 tabs here. So you can see how that would hold a ton of metal up in the axle tube. So you want to be sure to take them out of there with a screwdriver or a pry bar and clean them off really good, and then blast out your axle housing with some brake parts cleaner or whatnot. So I'll show you here how they install, and you want this seam on the top side, and this end goes in first. There we go, snapped into place. Once you get your differential sealing surface all cleaned up, then you want to either use a new gasket on this, or you can use some silicone like I did. I like to use the gray RTV silicone. It seems to be the strongest. And then if you are going to use silicone, you want to be sure to go all the way around the studs like I did here. That way you can eliminate the possibility of having an oil leak coming out through these studs through the differential. And then it's also a good time to put some Loctite on your threads, and that'll keep the differential from coming loose on you when you're out bashing it in the rocks. Also, don't forget to clean the sealing surface on your third member as well before you pop her on in.
Install your diff.
I've got all my 12mm differential bolts torqued now to 18 foot-pounds. I did all that in a cross pattern all the way around, and then I went around and one more time to ensure that I did it. Then now you can see I got a nice even layer of bead, if you will, of silicone coming out all the way around my diff. My oh my, I'm feeling pretty confident she's gonna seal up nice. I think it's time to throw in the axle shafts.
The axle shaft's in now, and you can also tighten your brake lines down so they're not leaking everywhere. Before we go ahead and tighten everything up, put at least 2 of your drive shaft bolts in, and then put your transmission in gear to hold your drive shaft in place. Then you can take a decent length pry bar like so and a motorcycle strap up to the body or the frame, and you can hold one of your axles in a forward position, locking it. And then now we can go ahead and test our locker on the other side to see if it ratchets like it should. Oh. Passenger side's now rigged up and locked with the pry bar and the strap. Let's see if the driver's side will work the same way.
We're there.
Let's test it the other way just because.
Double there.
What's your mother?
Now we're good to go ahead and torque our axle flange nuts down in a cross pattern to 50 foot-pounds. On either side, make sure your brake lines are tight. And then if you have the bigger style drive shaft bolts, I believe they torque to about 50 foot-pounds. You want to torque them down in a cross pattern as well. If you have the smaller style bolts, I think they're more around 25 to 30 foot-pounds.
Now bleed your lines.
Put back on them e-brake cables.
Now's a good time to go ahead and make sure your drain plugs back in and tight. Then you can go ahead and fill your differential back up with the correct specified oil. I've gone and used 80W90 gear oil in my application. I've put a little over 2.5 quarts in my diff now. So let's go ahead and see if it's full. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's full.
Last but not least, don't forget to tighten your plug.
And then go ahead and torque your lugs.
And just one last quick and friendly reminder from us here at Booster Seat. This video was intended for aid use only. Specifications may vary depending on your application. That being said, we are not responsible for injuries to yourself or damages to your tools or machine. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all again for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode of Booster Seat.